Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live. My name is Laken. I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to answer all of your questions about goals, planning, life, whatever is on your mind. And I am so excited to hang out today. Let's kick it off with our first question, which is always, what are you drinking? So if you're here live, I would love for you to share in the chat what you are sipping on while we're hanging out together today. And if you are watching the replay and you're part of the replay fam, I would love for you to let us know in the comments what you're drinking while you're watching the replay. I've got a nice large iced coffee here in my new Done is Better Than Perfect tumbler, and it's delicious. I also have my water handy, but it is very empty. So I guess I will just be drinking coffee today while we're chatting. Let me know in the chat. Say hello. What are you drinking? I haven't seen any. Oh, there they are. All of the comments just immediately rushing in. Hello, a hazelnut latte. Ooh, Crystal, that sounds good. Acai berry because I'm sick. Oh, Beck, I hope you feel better soon. Tea, iced coffee. Oh, team iced coffee. Always here for it. Always here for it. All right. And while you continue to share what you're drinking, I also want you to share an answer to our second question that we started this year, which is, what is one small win that you can share from this last week? One small win. It doesn't have to be huge. What is one thing that you did this last week to make progress on your goals? One small step that you took that we can share together. We got lots more water, a lot more water, a caramel coffee. Monique, that sounds good. Lots of people having lunch at the same time. And then we have a key over in Europe who's about to have dinner. I always love the difference in the time zones for everybody hanging out with us. I did have somebody ask recently, I don't remember if that was last week, but let me make sure that I clarify the times of these lives. I think it was on Instagram I said it. So let me make it sure I say it here. The times of these lives are not changing when I move to Chicago. It'll just be at a different time for me, but we're still going to do 1 p.m. Eastern. Amy started planning February and March content for your YouTube channel. Congrats. Viv, thank you for being my example. If your YouTube channel or Facebook name is not the name that you prefer to go by, I would love for you to include it in the comments so that I can refer to you by your name. Put sneakers by your treadmill. That's a huge win. That I know it feels small, but those small steps add up over time. Becca, I fell off my vitamins habit, so I started tracking again, and I've been good. It's amazing what tracking will do for that. I have reached my steps every day this week. Kathy created a point system for myself to help me stay accountable to checking in with my calendar in the evening. I too often just go to sleep. I completely can relate to that. Started working on your 2020 goals. Jennifer, you are not too late. I know I just said this to you in a text message. There's no rush. Take your time. There is no rule that says you have to be done by January 1st. Got your ceiling fan shored up to the ceiling. It used to rattle. Oh my gosh, Crystal, I bet that feels so good to not have to listen to that. Brittany made chore charts for my kids using Canva. Pretty charts make them want to use them. Oh, I'm sure, 100%. I got 1 week ahead with filming for your other channel, which takes all the pressure off. Amanda, that's amazing. Jennifer, oh, no. Jessica started yoga with Adrian 30 day today. It was tough, but I loved it. Loved it. Won't do it in only 30 days, but I'm looking forward to continuing. I love this comment. And here's why. There are some things that you can do I've said before, there's really not much you can do every single day. Most things you're going to miss a day. And I know that these 30-day challenges and whatnot can be very beneficial and can be very inspiring. But if you start one of these 30-day things and it takes you 35 days or 40 days or 50 days because you miss days, that's totally okay. And Jessica, I love that you're going into it with that mindset. Cleaned up my office after all the Christmas wrapping and boxes took over. I feel that. One goal was being more active in this community and went to the live workshop last weekend. I know. And I love that so many of you went out to dinner afterwards. Although I read that and I was like, dinner was like lunch, right? It was between lunch and dinner, but I love that so much. Started walking to the end of the driveway and back 5 times a day. Debbie, that's an amazing start. I hope that you are so proud of that. Finish your January goals. Jennifer, with 5-6 days to spare. Done some exercise every day this week. Jennifer, that's amazing. Linny, thank you for including your name. I know I called you Eileen last week. This was a tough week for me, but I'm trying to bounce back. One small step. Bouncing back, sometimes we feel all this pressure that the bounce back has to be massive. We have to bounce back to some giant thing compared to what we were before. Small steps. I never make the lives. I'm so excited. My big win is decluttering 2 big totes from your house. Jolene, that's amazing. That could be my win for this week too. I went to donate. I had 3 big tote bags that I took yesterday. So many wins. Thank you all for sharing your wins. Before we jump into questions for today, in case you haven't seen me talk about it somewhere, but if you're here live right now, you probably have, but if you haven't or you're catching the replay, I would really appreciate if you would take 5 minutes to answer the Plan with Laken survey. I've shared it in a number of places. So if you've already seen this, ignore me for the next 30 seconds. I have it linked down in the description box down below. I'm only keeping it open until the end of the week. If there is, it's just a couple of quick questions to help me get to know you better and help you better support you on your goal journey. I would really appreciate if you could answer those quick questions for me if you haven't done so already. And thank you to almost 200 of you that have already done it so far. I greatly appreciate your participation. All right, that's it. That's the only announcement I had this week. Let's get to it. What do you want to chat about? What questions do you have? It can be a question about a specific goal that you are struggling with. And I guarantee you, you are not the only one with that struggle. There is somebody else who likely is struggling with the same thing. And then if you don't know how to phrase it into a question, you can just put topic and put whatever the topic is that you want to talk about. Lisa, I almost don't want to share this one. It's not my win, but my son was accepted to Texas A&M, his first choice school. I'm not finishing the rest of that comment. Congrats to your son. Happy for him that he got into his first choice, even if it was A&M. For those of you who don't know, I went to the University of Texas, which is a big rivalry of Texas A&M. And I think those of you who like football and are from Texas would appreciate this. They played each other on Thanksgiving for literally forever. My entire life, they played each other on Thanksgiving. And when I was a student, and they alternate between the two schools, right? Who was going to be home every other year. And every year I went home for Thanksgiving. I obviously never went to the game when it was in College Station, but when it was in Austin, my sophomore year, I didn't stay. I went home for Thanksgiving. Well, I always said that my senior year of college, I would stay in Austin for Thanksgiving week. Well, I'd probably go to San Antonio for actual Thanksgiving, but then or for like maybe on Friday, they played like on actual Thanksgiving. I would go to the game my senior year. And that summer between junior and senior year of college is when they moved. A&M moved to the SEC and stopped playing Texas on Thanksgiving. So I've actually never been to a Texas A&M game, which is a huge bummer. Hopefully someday, once Texas gets back into the SEC, that rivalry will get reignited, and I can eventually get myself to a Texas A&M game. Jennifer, my current cleaning struggle is vacuuming. Any recommendations on getting this done or fun rewards for it? I scheduled the time and added to the planner, but still not doing it. Okay, so first off, I can't pretend that I'm as good at this either, but a couple of thoughts. Number one is what is struggling about it? Is it that it takes you a lot longer than you want it to take? Is it that you don't like the energy, like the physical energy it takes you to get around your house to vacuum? Is it that you're trying to do the whole house or apartment in one setting? I would try to identify what it is that you're struggling with and how you could maybe overcome that, right? Some of those could be as simple as like maybe it's getting a cordless vacuum instead of corded, because then it would be faster for you to get through the whole house. Maybe it's using it as a break in the middle of the day when you like need to get up from your desk, so you aren't physically tired at the end of the day, or like when you get home from work. That's assuming you work from home. Maybe it's like, but at least figuring out what it is that you're struggling with and how you can maybe tweak what you're doing now in order to make it easier. Maybe a fun reward could be after a certain amount of time, you get a Roomba that does it for you. That's one of my goals for the new year, is that once we get settled in our apartment, I really would like to get a Roomba. So I think that this could also just be one of those things that you start by starting small and like vacuum just the living room. And then you vacuum the living room and the dining room. And then it's like kind of expanded out a little bit. I'm going to come back to some of these other comments, but continuing on the vacuuming conversation. For me, something that makes vacuuming more fun is I put on my headphones and listen to upbeat music. Feels like less of a chore. I do the vacuuming with music, so I dance more, and I count it as exercise. I also don't do more than 1 or 2 rooms at a time. Yeah. I also think it depends on the space like that you're vacuuming in, right? And how that kind of pans out. Oops, I scrolled up way too high. Katie, last week was rough, but I've done a lot better this week. I finished my workout. Your day in the life made me get in early. Yay. Yeah. Cause for me, clearly when I push it off, I don't do it. Viv, along with the vacuuming topic and just household chores in general, how do you keep your partner, significant other accountable? My answer to this is I need to caveat with everybody is different, right? Everybody's partner and significant other relationship is going to be different, and everybody's split between chores is going to be different. Because I think that is something that is so personal to each and every person's life and every what the balance is. But I think step one is figuring out that balance, right? Because I think sometimes with household chores between partners is it's not clear definition of whose chore it is. And if you are alternating, just getting really clear on it, because the problem is that one will expect the other to do it and the other expects the other to do it, and then nobody does it and everybody's frustrated. And so just sitting down and being like, listing out, here are all of the things that have to get done. And some of them don't necessarily have to, but here are all like the nice to have things. Who is doing what thing? What's the cadence of doing what thing? Also, y'all, I just realized that my closet door is slightly open, which is super frustrating. That's going to bug me. So I think that's step one. And then step two is, depending on your significant other partners, like their, I don't know what the right phrase is, but like some people they have more of an umph than others. And so they're more or less likely to do it. It is reminding them in a gentle, nice, kind, asking way, and not like in a nagging way. Because at least for me, if it comes across as like nagging or frustrated, I like want to do it even less. Whereas if it's like a nice question, like, hey, can you please do this? I'm way more likely to be excited to actually do it. And then I think just getting, again, really clear on what are the expectations of what and when. And then also, though, giving grace of like, it's not going to happen every night, right? So like, I know I've shared this in a few places, but like one of the things that Sam always takes care of is the dishes. That's like his chore. He always does the dishes. And yes, I would like him to do them at night. And we've talked about like that would be the preferred, that we like wake up and the kitchen is clean. But that doesn't always happen. Depending on what we're doing or what he's doing the night before, it doesn't always happen. And I've had to realize that like, if I'm not going to do the dishes, then I need to be okay that sometimes I'm going to wake up and the dishes are still going to be in the sink. And he always will do them then in the morning. Like he either does them at night or first thing in the morning, but like, it's not always consistent, and it's his chore, and that's what he chooses to do. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to come back to some of these questions. My husband and I went through a list of what each of us did, and we were both surprised of how many things the other did that we didn't know. Yeah, for sure. Amanda, I'm the partner who doesn't do the chores. We spent the first 7 years of our relationships with my spouse being angry about chores. That is so interesting. And yes, Kim, I also recommend this book. Drop the Ball is a great book recommendation for household chores, responsibilities split up. Absolutely. And then, yeah, from Amanda, part of the problem is that I didn't notice when things get messy and cluttered. I just don't see it unless it's explicitly told. Yeah, it's a lot about communication. Isn't that true with everything related to relationships, though? Okay, I'm going to come back to some of the questions from Lenny. I get a rush on planning all my goals in detail, but when it comes to actually doing it, all that excitement goes away. Any tips? So, yes. Typically, so the answer, though, is going to be different for every person, because some people, it's what the goals are, right? Like you enjoy the planning. And so it doesn't matter what the goal is, you're going to be excited to plan it. But then when it comes to executing, you're not excited about the goal. So taking a step back and checking in and making sure that the goals that you're planning out are goals that you're actually excited to make progress on. The other piece is, how detailed are you getting to the point that you can't follow through on it? Because a lot of times we get so good at planning, and you're like, I can map this all out, and this is going to take me this long, and this is going to take me this long, and then I'm going to do this, and then this step, and it's like a domino effect. And as soon as one of those dominoes gets out of line because it took you more time than you thought it was going to take, it's all messed up, right? And so, to be honest, I do think breaking down your goals and scheduling time for them is absolutely necessary. But if you get too detailed or too specific with the goal and with the plan, then you're going to be way less likely to follow through on it, if that makes sense. The other thing is making sure that you're seeing progress, because usually we have some excitement, at least for that first step. And so you do that first step. Where are you tracking that? Where are you getting credit for that first step and doing that? And then continuing on from there, making sure you're breaking it down a lot smaller. But I do think a big piece of this is making sure that you're excited about the goals that you're actually working on. All right, a key. I struggle with time. I don't get how long something will take. Like, I still feel like emptying the dishwasher will take an hour. Any tips on how to get my brain to remember that it doesn't? This is so interesting. So, it's so funny because typically we're one extreme or the other, right? We either way overestimate and we say, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever to do this, like emptying the dishwasher. And so we put it off and we procrastinate, and then it only takes us 5 minutes. And then we have the other extreme where we say, like, I'm going to get this done in 30 minutes and it takes us 3 hours. For me, the best way and this is my brain, to wrap my mind around that is data. I have a data-driven brain. And so I like data and I like numbers. And if you don't, we'll talk about another option in a second. But if you do like data and you like numbers, the next 5 times, that's it. Like the next, or even 3, right? Maybe not even 5. I want you to time yourself and how long it takes you to do that task, and then write it down. And then at the end, I want you to take an average, because we all know it's not exact, right? Depending on what dishes were in the dishwasher, how much energy you have that day, it could take you 5 minutes, it could take you 15 minutes. But, and I say those numbers, guys, I don't empty the dishwasher again. Sam's sure. But time it. And then you'll be able to see, okay, on average, it takes me 11 minutes to unload the dishwasher. And then your brain literally has that data to fall back on. Now, the other option, if that doesn't help you, I did see somebody mention a timer, and I'm going to get to all the other comments. Tell yourself you don't necessarily have to finish it. You only have to do it for 10 minutes, and whatever you get through, and you'll find either it takes you less than the 10 minutes you thought it would, or you'll power through and finish it more than that. And then I'm also never above bribing myself. And then if you know what it is, if you don't know what it is, bribe yourself. If you know that it's going to take you less time, put a reminder somewhere, right? Maybe there's a sticky note in somewhere in your kitchen that says unloading dishwasher will not take an hour, right? Or in your planner or something, somewhere where you're going to see and remind yourself. Okay, now I am very behind on comments. Okay, hold on. Stephanie, I listened to Decluttering at the Speed of Life this week. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, 100%. It's so good for me too. Oh, there we go, from Katie. Start timing the activities and writing them down. Yeah, I don't even know if you need to do it for a couple of weeks. And I would only do one task at a time. Don't try to time all your things all the time. Like this week, maybe it's timing unloading the dishwasher. Next week, maybe it's something else. A key, the Routinery app Laken talks about has totally helped me with exactly what you're talking about. The timer helped me see how long it actually takes or doesn't take. Jennifer, a little bit different from chores, but something my husband will forget is his eye drops. I remind him once in the morning and once at night at his request, and then it's up for him to do. Yeah. If it's something that they want you to remind them of, then you just have to ask them, like, when do you want to be reminded? That's, I feel like, a little bit different. Clara, how is your monthly goal planner working out for you? So far, so good. I actually just filmed this morning my January goals check-in, and I talk a little bit about some of the like design things that I liked, and actually there was nothing I'm going to change for February. Spoiler alert. But I do talk about that in that goals video that will be out soon. Oh, I like this idea too from Jennifer. Can you set a timer and try to beat the time? Viv, any tips on how to reignite the momentum when you find yourself behind in the middle of the week? So this phrase, I feel like almost needs its own video. We've been talking a lot about being behind. And my first comment is always, what does behind even mean? Like, what are you behind? Is you being behind somebody else setting those parameters for you? Like, are you behind on delivering something that somebody else needed at a certain amount of time? And if that is the case, that is different. That's like, you need to have a conversation with those people. But most of the time when we're asking this question, because somebody asked it last week on the Q&A, I said it on Monday, and then somebody asked about it this week on the Q&A, and then you're bringing it up again now. Most of the time when we feel behind, it's our own struggles. It's our own deadlines that we've set for ourselves. So like for your example, I'm assuming when you say you feel behind in the middle of the week, you have set a plan for the week, and then you haven't gotten to where you thought you would get to by Wednesday. So now Wednesday, the rest of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all off because you are behind. So the first thing is to know that you set that, right? Nobody else set that. That is you set that. So you can just as easily unset it. You can just as easily switch it up and change it. And this is sometimes when I do think weekly planning can be hard, because the week changes. Things take more time or less time, or something personal pops up, or the weather throws us off, or something like that. And so you can just as easily change it. This is also when I think that having some sort of daily plan is really helpful, because then you can be like, okay, here's what I'm going to do today, and not worry about what you're going to get done or not get done for the rest of the week. In terms of action, what actually to do is step one, you've got to prioritize. So what are the prioritize? Like, what are the things that are the priority? And even if it is a deadline you set for yourself, but if you told somebody else, you need to tell them that it's still coming, right? And I literally did this. So I told everyone at the event on Saturday I was going to send an email on Sunday, and then I didn't. And then I typically have a video go up at 9 a.m. on Mondays. Well, at 10 a.m. on Monday, neither of those two things had happened yet, because I was behind. Again, behind on deadlines I'd set for myself, but I hadn't done them yet. So I got on Instagram. I told you that I was behind, and those two things hadn't happened yet, but that I was going to get to them today. So then those are the things that I prioritized. And I had to, it is a little bit of a mindset shift. I had to let go of the fact that I wasn't going to hit that arbitrary deadline I'd already set, but I'm going to prioritize. And then you're going to break them down and start with a small step. And that's the key to the momentum, right? You're asking about reigniting the momentum. It's one small step. So I started with the easier of the two, which was the email. Even though the video, like, it was going to more people, like, it didn't matter. I started with the email because it was the easier of the two, and I got it done. And that one small action step reignited my momentum, if that makes sense. Now, does that mean that the rest of this week I'm getting done less than I originally had planned? Yes, 100%. That's what's happening. But I'm still making progress. I'm still doing things, and that's what's important. Have you ever just chucked your week schedule in the middle of the week and made a new one? 100%. Yes, absolutely, I have. And that's also why I do like having a daily plan, is that I can immediately go like, oh, that's what I was going to do Thursday, but I didn't do half the things on Tuesday and Wednesday I wanted to do. So this whole plan for Thursday is no longer there. I'm going to do these other things instead. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Becca, I'm an Enneagram 6 and rebel tendency. How can I trick myself in wanting to do tasks and chores or getting things done in general? So for most of us, we're not going to be able to trick ourselves. Like, we're smart. We're smarter than that. We are humans. We have well-developed brains. We're not toddlers where you can stuff, zucchini in a brownie and get us to eat vegetables. You're not, tricking yourself, I just don't think is the mentality that's going to be able to help you with what you're struggling with. I think what you have to be better about is working with your tendencies, and setting yourself up for success based on your tendencies, instead of trying to emulate people who have different tendencies than you. And that, I think, is the hardest part. And also one of the reasons I struggle with sharing my own processes and goals online, because I know for some of you, it's really helpful if we identify as a lot of the same things. But for some of you, you're like, that would never work for me. And it feels like you're going to fail if you don't do it that way. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. I want you to figure out a way that is going to work for you. So typically, it's interesting because an Enneagram 6, you need a lot of, and I'm not an expert in the Enneagram by any means, but I did do a whole series of Enneagrams where I actually interviewed people of each of the Enneagram types, and we talked about goals related to Enneagram types. And so maybe start by going back and rewatching that video. Enneagram 6 was Shade, and she's amazing. And one of the big things we talked about is that Enneagram 6s need to feel prepared. So you need to feel like you have the information, like you need to feel like you're prepared for the worst case scenario. But the reminder is that the worst case scenario rarely ever happens, right? It's rare that that's going to be the case. So can we take it down a notch and prepare for like the second worst case scenario? The hard part is that with your rebel tendency, you don't want to do any of that. Like those two things actually feel like they're in conflict for me, because you don't want to be told what to do. You want to just do what you want when you feel like it. The key to rebel tendencies is not being strict about when you do tasks and chores. You've got to have flexibility. You've got to have options. So you might schedule time that you're going to work on something, but then you've got a whole list of options that you're going to pick from when it's time to work on that thing. We've talked about Amanda randomizing that she does for her routines. That's how she works with her rebel tendency. But I think it's trying to work with your tendencies and less about trying to work against them and like trick yourself into them, if that makes sense. I hope that was helpful. Nicole, I'm super organized, but I struggle with time management. Any tips that can help me better manage my time? I've done lots of videos, and I'll leave some link down below after this on time management. Typically, for most people, when they say they struggle with time management, is that they overcommit, is that you overdo it and then you don't get everything done. So the first thing I would start with is leaving more white space and overestimating how long things are going to take. So double how long you think things are going to take so that you are overestimating, and then leave some white space in your calendar. Alexa, great question. Thoughts on tracking? I feel like there are too many things I want to track, so then I feel overwhelmed and I don't want to track any of it. I think tracking is beneficial for two things. Number one, data, right? We were talking about a keys dishwasher conundrum earlier. If you are tracking just to get data, you do it for a short period of time to get said data, and then you're done, right? You're tracking temporarily. Number two is accountability. So you're tracking so that you are being held accountable to checking something off, and then you're able to see that progress that you're making. So if you're not doing it for one of those two things, like if you don't need data on the situation and you don't need extra accountability for tracking it, right? Like you're already going to do it anyways, then I wouldn't track it, right? Take it off the list and you don't need to track it. If it does fall into one of those two categories, I agree that trying to track too many things is too much. If you're trying to do too many things, you're going to end up doing none of the things. So be picky and pick a small number, and it's temporary, right? Maybe it's for a week, maybe it's for a month, depending on the goal planner you're using, and just track temporarily to either hold yourself accountable or get that data and then switch it up when you're ready to switch it up. This is especially hard this time of year because we feel like we want to track all of the things, and you can't, like you said, you get overwhelmed if you're trying to track all the things. Jennifer, I had a frustrating day at work yesterday, and I gave myself the drive home 20 minutes to vent and then did my after work routine, and it changed my mood. So much progress on not dwelling on work, transitions, or working. Thank you for sharing this with us. I feel the same way. When something is frustrating or doesn't go, there has to be a time. And I always tell myself, it depends on how early it happened in the day, what else I have going on later that day, how much time I need to start over until I start fresh, and whether it's those 20 minutes. Sometimes I do take the whole evening and I'm like, okay, this day is done and I'm just going to start fresh tomorrow. But trying to start small and just letting yourself take what you need and then get back into it. Thank you for sharing. Savina, first off, that's a beautiful name. If you feel like you're behind, it's important not to chase your day or weekly to do. It will only lead to stress. 100%. If you feel behind, you're not going to hit the whole list, right? Like it's not going to happen. So you have to just go ahead and start letting stuff go. And that means you need to physically cross it off or rewrite it. Going back to Becca and her type 6 and rebel tendencies. I feel like I do towards spontaneous time. And that might be what works for you. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's how I do them too. If I make a schedule, I never follow it. Yep. I think that if you like, that might be what works for you is spontaneous times, and just have a place that you check them off when you do them so that you're seeing the progress that you're making and you know that you're doing them, right? That might feel like you're not making progress if you're doing them spontaneously, but you really are. So, yeah, I wish I had more advice for the rebel tendency. And I know that there are a lot of you that identify as that. I obviously do not. So I do struggle with that because I don't have, extensive amounts of knowledge on that topic. Does Moxie Life have a daily planner? Just finding out I'd like more room than my weekly is giving me. And I saw that Samantha answered this. Yes, they have a daily. It only lasts 1 quarter though. That still works. I'll switch to it at the quarter. Yeah. They do have a daily. It's just 1 quarter at a time. Shannon, I'm still trying to drill down on my goals for this year. I'm in a new season, new job, moves across the country, loss of parent. I'm sorry to hear that. Any suggestions on envisioning big picture while settling into routines? So I think if you are, and I mean, I'm probably coming from like literally my own personal experience at this point. If you are in this state of big transition, right, you might have a hard time seeing the big picture, right? You are still trying to settle into your new job, potentially settling in to your new location. It's hard to envision what you want your life to look like in those spaces until you have an idea of what it's like now, right? It comes from that, like starting where you're at. You don't really know where you're at yet. So I think that you don't need to put a lot of pressure on yourself to set goals for this year yet if you're not ready. Maybe what you need is a little bit more time of settling and getting a sense of where you're at currently before you're ready to say, okay, now I know where I'm at. Here's what I want it to look like at a big picture. Because and I feel the same way, right? Like I can set goals for later in the year, but until we get to our new location, I don't know if that's what I'm going to actually want it to look like, right? Like, I don't know if that's actually my vision or my desire. So I feel like maybe it's Q1 is like getting settled into, I hate the phrase the new normal, and because I feel like everybody took it in a totally different context this last couple of years. But I feel like that might be step 1 for you, right? Is getting settled into what life looks like for you right now with your new job and new location and family changes. And then you can take a step back and like start to envision, because it can be hard to think about the future when you aren't comfortable or really confident in where you're at right now. Hopefully that made sense. Because that's how I feel. That is literally exactly how I feel right now, is that until we get there, I feel like I can't envision like what's next for the future. Like we just need to get there first and settle a little bit. Like what is our routines going to look like? I mean, like I literally was just messaging my mom before this, and she sent me a link to something my brother is performing in April. And it was just like, that's just like a weekend plan now, right? Like seeing my family going to a thing on the weekends is just like, that's normal. And so like, that is going to change a lot about my life. And I feel like I need time to let that settle before I can think big picture. Okay. Now I lost where I'm at. Topic: journaling for clarity and focus. So I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about journaling because I've never really been consistent about with any kind of journal. The most I have been is recently, and I don't even have it with me because it's out on the couch, is the Moxie Life Daily Intentions Journal. I have been really consistent with that, and I really like that. I don't know that it provides me clarity and focus. I think it just is good to kind of get some stuff out of my head. I know a lot of people swear by morning pages where you just like brain dump 3 pages in the morning and get things out of your head. I think if you if that's the goal of journaling for you, then a couple of questions to ask yourself. One is, what time of day would it help for you to gain clarity and focus, right? Is getting stuff out of your head at night before you go to sleep? Is it first thing in the morning when you wake up? Is it right when you get home from work and getting all of those thoughts out of your head? Like, when do you need that clarity and focus? And taking that time to journal. Number two is, do you want to just get thoughts out of your head, or do you need some guided questions? And maybe the guided question is, how can I gain clarity, right? Or how can I gain focus? Or what do I need to gain clarity on today? Or what do I need to focus on today, right? Using those words that you've chosen as part of your journal prompts. And then the last piece of this is just general journaling tips. Number one, start small, right? If you start with one sentence or one paragraph, I know I said 3 pages is the morning pages. Please don't start with 3 pages. That's a lot. It is a lot. If you're doing 0, starting with 3 is a lot of writing. Start small, and you can build your way up from there until you feel like that's the right amount of journaling for you. And then don't pressure yourself that it has to look the exact same every day, right? There might be some days that you can write and write and write, and it flows and it just comes out of your brain. And then there's going to be days that you're like, I can't think of anything. That's totally normal. Maggie, yes. I gave myself until February to start my goals because December is so hectic with life and work that I need a breather. Absolutely. If it is interesting. Like, I love the new year. I love it. Don't get me wrong, obviously. But it is kind of frustrating that we like the busiest month of the year, typically with holidays and everything going on in December, and usually there's travel involved and all kinds of things. And yet at the same time, we're also supposed to be prepping for the new year and like picking goals and be ready to go by Jan 1. Like, that's really hard. That's really hard. In years of big change, it's helped me a lot to just set 90 days for goals. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Maybe there's more value in quarterly refreshes this year. It's like a reverse funnel. I have to go small to go big instead. Yeah. And I think, Shannon, there might not be a right time that you can define right this second, but I think maybe you might realize at some point that you are ready, right? You might realize, like, in the middle of May, like, okay, now I feel good and I'm ready to set bigger goals. They don't have to be annual goals, right? They could be through the end of December. You don't have to wait for those perfect cycles to reassess. Just because that's where you're at in your life, right? And you might realize at some point that this is the right time for you to reassess. That's what I'm telling myself too. Lots of people moving. All right, Amanda, we just found out where we're going. So at the beginning of July, we'll be moving to North Dakota. Good thing I have a moving spreadsheet that I only updated last year. I know you're used to moving though. You've got this. Samantha, I am currently moving. I'm moving and starting a job this summer. So I also really to set goals this year because my life will look so different. Yeah. So maybe if you match that shift that's going to happen, you set goals until that shift happens. But then the reminder that was the whole spiel I gave Shannon is that you might not be ready to set goals right away in this new phase. You might need time to settle before you're able to set goals after that. I'm another person moving halfway through the year. So many moving, and have no clue what the second half of the year will look like. Concentrating on goals for the first half for now, and we'll see what the future holds. Absolutely. I think what helped me the most is Laken's advice to set vague goals, and the types of actions I take to achieve those goals can change as my life changes. Absolutely. Moving to either Iowa or South Dakota. Depends on where my manager will need me. Those are, I don't know where you live now, Samantha, but like those are That's a lot of moving. Anyone else going to North Dakota? Amanda, everybody's moving. Or Lainey, I'll be moving. Linny, sorry, I totally mispronounced that. There's a girl I dance with whose name is Eileen, who goes by Lainey. Linny. I'll be moving to the next door apartment, easiest move ever. You know, sometimes that's also hard. Like literally just any kind of move is still hard. When I moved in New York the first time, it was 3 blocks and it was still hard. It was like there's still a lot to move. I'll never forget like walking those 3 blocks with like Charlie in her carrier. Like, here we go. This is it. We're moving. It's a lot different than Charlie and I trying to drive, and Sam now, 12 hours for our move. She is going to have no idea what's going on. Maggie, okay, since a lot of people are talking about moving, how soon did everybody start their moving plans? We won't be moving for 2-ish years, but the planner in me is dying to prep. So I think it depends on where you're moving, why you're moving, and like how much effort it takes into going into that move, right? Like, does it involve selling and buying a house? That's a big piece that we didn't have to deal with. Is the date flexible, or are you like we were committed to the date because that's the date our New York City lease was up? I feel like everybody is different also in the amount of prep they want to do. We literally didn't start until probably December, like truthfully. And some people were commenting on things for me and they were saying that was like, they were like, you need to start prepping now. And I was like, now that I'm in it, I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I think I was fine, but that is the place we were moving, right? We weren't selling and buying a house. So I could start looking for an apartment, and we booked movers early January. I started packing. Like, it feels fine right now. Now I might change my mind and tell you that in 2 months. I wish I had started sooner, but that's what's worked for me. But I think everybody is different depending on how much of your move and like how much effort it's going to be. And then if it makes you feel better to start now, start now. Like, there's no rules that say you have to wait to start. Kathy, are you using StreamYard to push to YouTube? Not a goal question. Yeah, it's called StreamYard. It's streaming both on YouTube and on Facebook, and then that's how the questions pop up. Amanda, I make myself wait until 6 months out if the military gives us 6 months notice. Also, we don't have to do the actual packing, so I can wait longer because of that. Yeah. Also depends, Maggie, on how much you're moving, right? Like, I live in a 600 square foot apartment. So the amount that I have to move versus the amount that somebody else packing up a whole house has to move is going to be very different. My personal year goes from November 1st to October 31st. I follow the harvest wheel of the year. I set 90-day goals that helps me get towards my 1 year, 2.5 year, 5, 7.5 year, 10-year goals. That's amazing. Wow. And I think I said this in a recent video that a lot of people related to is, if you want to pick a different cycle of the year, like January 1st is not your cycle, pick a different cycle. I'm this year kind of leaning into my birthday, which is March 25th, as my new year, like the start of my new year. I know somebody said that they do their birthday every year. Somebody else said that they are doing the lunar calendar. Somebody else told me they're doing the Jewish New Year. And then somebody else told me they're doing the zodiac calendar. And so there are so many ways that you can cycle your goals. It doesn't have to be January 1st. Viv, we'll come back to your question in a second, because that one's a little bit more loaded than some of these moving questions. Tip from Jennifer, start decluttering now if that's something that's important to you. The app I use for photos is Get Sorted. And yes, Jennifer, I don't have much room to stack boxes also. There's not much space. I'm about to get rid of a furniture piece, to be honest, to start stacking a box in that corner, because it also just started snowing, guys. Yay. I do like snow, but yeah, I don't have much space to pack boxes in my tiny apartment. Abby, I am moving to Chicago. So I currently live in New York City, and I am moving to Chicago at the end of February, literally 5 weeks from yesterday. Justina, I'm jealous. It's only raining in Queens. Maybe it is rain and it just looks like, but it looks like snow to me. But it would be really bizarre that I have snow and you just on the other side of the river have rain. Maybe my window is just dirty. No, it looks like snow. Okay, Viv, I'm going to hop back up to your question. Because this is a good question, but also a very I feel like a very loaded question. Okay. Any idea, belief, philosophy on planning and productivity that has changed over the years? I mean, yes. Like the answer to this is 100% yes. The first one that comes to my mind is it changes. Your methodology and need for productivity and planning process is going to change. And we have to be open to that. No, you're not meant to be loaded. I don't mean loaded in a bad way. I mean, I probably could talk about this for the next 15 minutes. I'm not going to, but I feel like a lot. And I feel like if I also took a step back and really thought about it, I could come up with more than what is going to come off the top of my head right now. But the first one, again, is that it changes. And I used to not be open to that and open to my system needing to change because I just wanted to stay consistent all the time. Number two is that rest is productive and I need white space in my calendar. And I told this story in a number of places, but the Reader's Digest version is that end of 2019, beginning of 2020, Laken filled every hour of every day with her calendar. And she was definitely headed to a running into a brick wall level of burnout. And then the world shut down and it literally forced me to have white space in my calendar because all of the social stuff got taken off my calendar. All the travel got taken off, my commute, just so much extra space opened up. And I finally realized how nice it was to have white space and rest. And now I purposefully incorporate that into my system. The other thing, oh my gosh, and this is a big one for me too, is the inconsistency of if you want to call it productivity, but I want to use the word progress. Your levels of progress is going to look different every hour, every day, every week, every month. I talked about this a lot in the workshop on Saturday. It is going to look different over the course of time, and you have to be okay with that and open to it fluctuating. And I used to feel like a failure if I didn't hit certain levels of productivity on a day, a week, or a month. And now I've learned to let that go. Yeah, man, I feel like I could talk about that topic for a long time. It's been snowing in Chicago all morning. Yay. I do like snow. Audrey, would you recommend the No BS weight loss program? So I've said this before, and the answer is yes. I think it's a great program. I think her mentality behind weight loss is really helpful. The things they want you to remember is that it's a lot. And so you have to really be willing to put in the time and the effort to utilize the program for it to be worth it. And then the other piece to remember is that it's a lot and it's okay to take small steps. I feel like that was one of the struggles I had, was that it felt very overwhelming and there was a lot of things that they want you to do right away, and trying to do all of those things on day one can be really hard. And it's sprinkled throughout there where they say you can only do one, you can do just one of the 4 basics, but at the same time, then you have a planner that's tracking 9 habits. And so it felt a bit overwhelming at times. And so if weight loss is not your number one prioritized goal, I would wait to sign up, because you can start to implement some of her 4 basics without being a member of the program. She's got a free podcast with lots of information. She's got a free mini training with lots of information. So I would maybe start there. And then if you really are ready to prioritize and focus, then consider signing up. Jennifer, yes, I've learned that it's okay that my planner supplies and needs change. It's okay to donate and share what I don't use anymore. That's a great one. Same, 100%. Oh, I feel like I could make a whole video on my philosophies that have changed over the last 3 years, give or take time. I mean, this date 3 years ago, I was in such a different place. I just saw our post recently. We had just signed the contract with our venue for our original date. It just popped up as a memory somewhere where I'd originally posted whatever the original countdown was. It was 400 and something days. from the day we signed our contract to like our original wedding date. Whew, a lot has changed between now and then, but it's all good. It's all for the best, really, truthfully. So any other questions as I get distracted by the snow / maybe it's rain? No, it's white. Maggie, just decluttered so many stickers, but couldn't live without my Zig dot markers. Me neither. I want them in like a million more colors. Can we get some more colors? Because I am sick of the colors. Like I need some new ones. And I just need them to make some new colors. And I know that there's other types of markers that Cindy has reviewed, but like none of them are as good, I feel like, as the Zig ones. Becca, I was told that I have an attachment to material things like clothes, sentimental items. How can I detach from that mindset? Oh, geez. I don't know if this is a question that I am qualified at all to answer. I feel like whoever told you that might be the person that's qualified to answer that. I feel like there's nothing wrong, I think, necessarily with having an attachment, as long as it's not impacting you negatively. So like if keeping the clothes or sentimental items is impacting you negatively in some way, then it's prioritizing maybe between like the attachment that you feel to like the negative impact that it's having. But if it's not impacting you, I feel like, I don't know. That's a hard question. I'm sorry. Sabina, my biggest struggle is finding self-care that is free. I feel that. I also feel like this stems a lot from what the society and like, especially like people selling things define as self-care. So I feel like the first key to this is defining what self-care means to you. And at its core, it's caring for yourself. Literally, that's self-care. So what does caring for you look like? What is caring for Savina? And some of it, we all have the same needs in terms of self-care, right? Water, nutrients from food, a certain amount of sleep, a certain amount of sunlight, right? There are those kinds of needs that we do all have. But then we all have different types of caring needs. Is it alone time? Is it time with friends? Is it reading? Is it doing something creative or crafty? Is it music? Is it art? Like what are the things that caring for yourself looks like? And then scheduling that in. And I think that it can be hard for sure, depending on what it is, to find things that are free. But I think that we can also prioritize what is worth investing in, because caring for ourselves is literally probably one of the most important things we will do in our lives. And so can you shift funds somewhere to invest something or a little bit into some sort of self-care? All right. Any other last minute questions? I'm supposed to go to dinner with a friend tonight. I hope this precipitation. Okay, now it's starting to look way fluffier out there. Okay. Well, if you don't have any last minute questions, if you do, pop them in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and ask you our last question, which is, what is one thing that you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? It could be as simple as setting up your February goals, your February action steps. It could be a small step that you're going to take, 5 minutes. Small progress is still progress, and adding it up over time is going to help. So I want you to share. If you're here live, share with us in the chat. What is that one small step that you're going to take? And if you are catching the replay, what is the one small step that you're going to take? Let us know down in the comments. I'm excited to see all of them pop in. Well, there's a slight delay. Maintain momentum and develop routines. I love that, Shannon. I feel you on that too. Mine's hopefully maintaining the momentum with packing. Start writing your first home exam. It's exciting, a key. Attend the Plan with Laken goal setting session on Saturday. Yep, if you're a member of Patreon, we have our February goal setting session on Saturday, and then and the replay will be up shortly after. Get euros for your upcoming trip to Paris. That is so exciting. Making time this weekend to work with your mom to scan old family photos. Oh my gosh, Monique, that's amazing. Attend the goal setting session. Continue your streak of attendance. I know, I feel like you get like a perfect attendance award, Jennifer. Finish a jewelry design piece, solidify creative time in your schedule. I love that, Sonia. Finally, bringing the blankets we are getting rid of to the dog shelter. Keep tracking your vitamins. Start the one resistance band exercise before the end of this week. Print out recipes. Declutter a few more areas and prep for packing and moving. All of the moving club of 2023, which is so funny. Hopefully it won't be moving for a while after that. Hopefully you found this live helpful. If I saw your comment saying that you're glad you were able to join live, that it was really helpful. If you aren't able to join live, you can always ask a question in the comments for the next one. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're new, click that subscribe button. I do upload new videos every week focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Have a great day.